tuned. We're back. I have so for the month. So there's a couple things about this month I'll talk about at real quick before we begin, folks. As we go into September, I have a sponsor. Jen Lieberman's Year of the What audio giveaways are going to start happening. We're going to be doing our first announcement of that on Wednesday. That starts literally Wednesday, so I'm excited about that. Outside of that, and if anyone's looking to be sponsored for the book, contact me. We can definitely make something happen there. Beyond all that, I'm going to be scheduling week to week. One of the decisions I'm making is, I was, for a lot of reasons, I'm looking to leave the province, but I'm kind of looking for jobs elsewhere. If I do get something, I'll probably be taking a week off. So I'm booking basically a week to week for the month of September until something breaks. So you might not see a regular schedule this month. I'm just saying all that now so I can get all this stuff out of the way. And so I can bring in my guest, Derek Borne. Derek's back again.
Hey, what's going on? Happy to be with the awesome Josh.
Just causing my usual bit of chaos and mayhem, my friend. Causing my usual bit of chaos and mayhem.
I released some chaos about August 3rd. Dino Rift, my new book.
Mm-hmm.
So far, I actually bought about 40 copies in a big box, and I smoked through those. Somehow, I don't know what happened there, but everyone wanted a signed copy, and it was very, very humbling. I wasn't expecting that. So I had to order more books. I'm able to sell them at the store where I work now. So apparently someone walked in and bought a copy today. It was my day off, and
It's nice to get paid to do nothing.
Almost, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, no, I mean, when I get my royalties from Amazon, it's like, hey, I've done all this work already. That's passive income. Passive income rules, man. It really does.
Yeah. I was trying to reset my laptop here. I thought my lap would be good, but I don't want to shake the camera too much.
It gets warm. Some laptops get really, really warm. I mean, you like, what's done? Hi, honey, it's good. Why is your crotch so hot? Well,
yeah, right. No, it's been good. Dino Rift. I'm really surprised. I felt a lot of pressure with this book because really there aren't a lot of dinosaur books out there. And the one that's known the most is Jurassic Park, right? So for me, I kind of felt like there was a big shadow that I was kind of standing behind. And yet a lot of the reviews keep saying it's like a young adult Jurassic Park. And to me, that's just like, whoa. I mean, I love Michael Crichton. He's a legend. But I didn't know what I was expecting with this book.
I didn't know what I expected with any book. I mean, really, when you write something, right? You write something because you have something to say, right? You're like, right? That's what we were writing about. Everything else is just about that's cool if it happens. Having no expectations is not a terrible thing. It's more the fact that
I try to have no expectations.
Yeah.
Like that's me when I walk into a movie. Is I go in with no expectations, no matter how many reviews are out there, or whatever the Rotten Tomatoes score is. I don't care. I just if I enjoy it, great.
I actually don't look at reviews. I don't look at trailers.
Okay.
It looks. I don't. I have found that. So for me, the movie that made me realize that trailers were dumb was The Matrix.
Oh really?
I did not. When I went into The Matrix, I had literally.
When you went into The Matrix?
It literally went into The Matrix. Into the movie, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder if I ever really got out. That's another thing altogether.
Yeah.
But the thing of it was, with that movie, when you remember what the commercials were like, there wasn't a lot of really you looked. Intrigued you, but you really didn't know what the commercials were really saying. It's like,
right.
It was just enough to get you curious.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That was all it was. So you go in there and you watch this movie. Bang. And it's like, it blew my mind. Because again, the moment you see Neil, like you saw some weird things early on when his mouth gets stoned. She's like, how did that happen? Right? Had the bug tracer thing. It's like, okay, that's the hell. Like right, like that thing. It's but you're still thinking this is going to be just some action movie because that's what it was advertised. It looked like, and it is an action movie, but it's so much more. And when he takes that red pill, it's like oh my God. And then it blows your brain. Like, then from that point on, it's like you watch that and you watch that movie and you're completely into the ride.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, if I had known this was coming, I asked myself this when this was a movie, if I had known, would I have enjoyed it as much?
Right.
And the answer is no, I wouldn't have. It wouldn't have been nowhere near as enjoying an experience. So I don't watch trailers. I ignore them. Like if the movie looks interesting, I'll watch it. Right? If the movie is like Green Lantern.
So when you don't see a trailer though, like what gets your interest?
What gets my interest? Well, what tends to happen is, okay, if I see a movie, like you see advertisements on YouTube and all these other places, if it looks cool, I'll check it out. That's it. But also,
so do you ever wonder if there's a movie you're missing out on though? Like, say you don't see something, and then like something comes along.
But here's the thing about that. You see, I made a really big like promise to myself. I'm not cool. And here's the thing: since I'm not cool, there's not. No. Hear me out on this. I am so out of touch on what is current in television and movies. I don't watch any of that. Like nothing. I am uncool. But I also realize like I'm creating my stuff. I'm writing my stuff. I'm doing this podcast. If I'm watching all this stuff, I'm not creating.
That's true. That's very true.
It's actually it's a two-edged sword. One is I'm cutting out a lot of clutter. Like I really wasn't a fan of The Walking Dead. I was okay with The Walking Dead comic, but in my opinion, Invincible is a better comic by Rob Kirkman than Walking Dead is. And I think that cartoon will be amazing.
Have you? So you haven't seen it yet?
No, I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it yet. I'm behind. Again, I'm not cool. It's intense.
It's intense.
Of course it is. No, I know. I've read the comic, so I know how intense it can get.
I never read the comic though.
The comic is so it starts. I would imagine the show and the comic are pretty close. I imagine there might be some differences. I'm very curious of how if they get that far into it. If there is a very unique group. There's a very unique rape scene. It's unique. It's not something you see when like it's not something you'd see, right? And it fits the story very well, oddly enough. Like it's not glorifying it in any way, shape, or form. It's actually a horrible thing,
right?
But the how, the why is not what you expect, and it's like. I don't know if they're going to go into that kind of adult stuff because the species he's half human, half I forget what he's called.
Right.
His other half is called, but that other half is a sadistic, cruel, barbaric race in a lot of ways. It's just they're hard, and when he goes to that planet, he learns some hard lessons the hard way, and it's like I said, it's. Like I said, so yeah, I can only imagine, like, just to give you an idea of how intense the comic is, right? I can only imagine, and I'm not doing this any justice. It's not, like I said, doesn't glorify it at all. It's actually very brutal. But, I mean, there's all kinds of these things. Like, his dad's the villain. I guess the other thing, too, like, his dad's the villain.
Yeah,
his dad's a freaking monster. Like, he played the superhero for years, but he's a monster.
Yeah. The thing I appreciated with the show actually is how many actors that have been in superhero stuff in the past decade or so are used for voices for the characters in the show. So you've got Mark Hamill shows up because everyone knows him as the Joker, but he's a totally different character than the Joker. But when you realize and you go, hey, I know that voice, it adds another layer of nostalgia to it.
Hey, Anita.
Hey, Anita.
We're talking Invincible. So.
The Invincible.
Yeah, no, Invincible. But again, Rob Kirkman's a comic fan that loves comics, and Invincible is that's his purest work as a comic book guy. That's his purest. Walking Dead was his hit,
right?
And it's not that Walking Dead was Walking Dead's not a bad book at all, but it was never really my cup of tea either. So
not a zombie guy.
What?
Not a zombie guy.
Once you get the premise of The Walking Dead, the story just runs its course.
Right.
So, and for me, the premise is The Walking Dead is not the zombies; it's the survivors.
Yeah, and
That's
some
the
stories
whole-
get stretched a little too far, or a little too
Oh,
long.
absolutely no.
Right?
Well, I think anything after when the governor was in there is almost a rehash. He got to a point he was starting to say the same things over and over and over again.
Right.
So I think
Right,
the
and get
first 50
lazy.
issues of Walking Dead are great, but after that, you could walk away from that and not feel so bad. Invincible is a really cool story. It's like where Danny starts and where he evolves to. It's a very cool journey, and it doesn't stop ever, which I think is a really, really great thing about him and his character. And that's why that book works.
Right.
But again, you only have so much time.
Mm-hmm.
You have to pick and choose kind of how you spend that time. So I gave up television probably 10 years ago.
See, if you ever get a chance, though, one show that I have to recommend is called Chuck.
I've seen it.
Have you?
I've seen little bits. I saw the first season's great. The first season's great. Second season's okay.
Yeah.
Third one's meh. But the first two are pretty.
I love the second season, though, because you got more of the mythos of all the characters and the backgrounds. But the fact that they used Scott Bakula as Chuck's dad later on in the show, it's like they start pulling so many different actors for cameos and stuff.
See, that's what gets you. So you love some of that old nostalgia stuff that you grew up with, right? And so that's the nostalgia feels. Chuck's the first season of Chuck's really interesting.
Yeah.
The second season, it's really about him getting a girl. That's really what the second season's about, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But once
how long can you stretch that out?
Well, there's that, but also once he gets the girl, where do you go from there? Like it did. Like I think Chuck was a strong 2-season show that went 1 season too long. Right? That's my opinion on it.
Everyone wanted a 5th season because the story wasn't quite finished yet, even after 4 seasons. I just hate the fact that it was rushed to 13 episodes.
That's the thing, right? So the last real story I watched was Fringe. I thought that was neat.
That show was really awesome.
Yeah,
I love Fringe.
Fringe is really good. But
after the rewatch of that one, actually.
Yeah, but like I said, I don't watch much. Like right now, I still got 2 DVD sets of Fairy Tale I still have to watch. I don't know when I'm going to get to it. And when I get to it, it'll be like, okay, then I got Steins Gate, which is a great little anime show. Again, that'll take me probably till next year, probably before I get to all that.
Yeah.
I fall into YouTube rabbit holes and I play video games. That's when I right?
Yeah, my wife and I actually play Minecraft together. I convinced her to download it and play it.
It's a surprisingly soothing game.
Yeah. Except when you go into a raid in a village and you go to one end of the village and have like 5 witches pop up all at once around you. It's not as calming then.
It depends. See, I have a friend on Minecraft. I've been a subscriber to her Twitch. Like since I'm on the Twitch community, I joined the communities there. Yeah, and hold on a second. Yeah, I like Chuck. The first 2 seasons of Chuck, I really like. I really do. Like I just feel it's one of those problems. If your show's a hit, and it was a hit show, you got to continue it because it makes you money. Yeah. But I think after the first 2 seasons, the story bits get less and less, and the cool things that made Chuck at the beginning disappear because he's a different character. When you get to season 3, he's a different guy, and he should be at that point. But
because he made a mistake.
Well, not even just because he made a mistake, but also he's not Percival anymore. When he's at the start, he's got this cool little ability that everybody's kind of tapping into.
Yeah.
But he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. So we're like, so vicariously we're living through Chuck discovering this cool new world, and we got this really, really incredibly hot spy he's working with that we all kind of have a little bit of a crush on ourselves. So right, and that's right.
Strahovski, what?
yeah. So, but I mean, but it's a simple formula.
Yeah.
But it works, right? And that's the thing. But he's not Percival in season 3 anymore. Now he's something else. whether he makes a mistake or he doesn't make a mistake or he doesn't screw up, like that adds to him. That like it's cool to add some moral, like more like when you screw up, what happens?
Yeah.
But when you get right down to it, like when you get into the mythos of Chuck, right? What's happening is now that personal story is kind of told when he gets the girl.
Yeah.
So you almost got to tell a brand new story with Chuck, and you can.
Yeah.
But because you only have one season to do, but you got maybe a couple months instead of a couple of years to really map the story out, it's not as good. So 3 and 4 are okay.
Yeah.
5's meh. That's just me. That is my opinion.
Yeah.
If you love Chuck, I'm not going to knock you for it. I mean.
Oh, and I know so many people that hated the ending, even though like it was a bittersweet ending, and I appreciated the nuance of Chuck because they made it that he basically kind of got drunk with power to a degree.
Sure.
And he kind of lost who he was, right? But by the end of the show, that's when he really truly realized that he just had to be himself like he was in the beginning, because that's what made Sarah fall in love with him.
Yeah.
It was never the powers. It was never the intersect. It was because he was Chuck. Yeah.
Right.
So you kind of appreciate seeing that side of it going, okay, well, yeah, he's got all the cool powers and stuff. He knows Kung Fu. But the Kung Fu is never the reason why she fell in love with him. He never needed the intersect.
No, the intersect's just how they met. That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's literally how they met.
Yeah.
So
I got to get into reading more anime and manga stuff though, because I had someone review my book for me that gave me a 2-star review.
Yeah, I remember we talked about this. And
it was like it would be a better experience if it was a graphic novel.
Manga.
Yeah. And it's like I gave you a book to review as a book. So why? I mean, again, I would love to do a graphic novel of Dino Rift, because she kept saying how like the time rift stuff would have been really cool
because
to see on the page.
But here's the thing, right? And I said this to you off the air. I'll say this to you on the air. Some stories, the more about about these mediums, the more different ways you can tell a story.
Yeah.
I'm doing an epic poem with illustrations of Alice in Wonderland. I've dabbled in comics.
Yeah, right.
Right. I've dabbled in comics. Like, I've dabbled in them. I've done prose. I've done poetry. I do nonfiction articles. I do interviews. So I'm playing with all these mediums.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look at any story, what's the best? So the question I always ask is, what's the best way to tell it? Not how I can tell it. Like, what's the best way to tell it?
Right.
Your reviewer is doing the same thing. Your reviewer is basically saying this is okay. Now, I would have given you 3 stars, not 2. But that review does make sense. Some books are better. And you'll see, here's another example.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, right. Here's another example. So one of the common things happening, and I'm going to plug something that'll be announced literally in a couple days. I'm doing some teaching work.
Oh.
Right. And
cool.
I can't say more than that right now.
Spoilers.
I can't say more than that right now. But one of the things we talk about is one of the things I'm talking about is storytelling. Because one of the things I know that people are going to be coming to what I'm doing is they're going to look at how to turn their podcast into a novel. Because there are certain podcasts that's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have a podcast and we're having this conversation, okay, if I transcribe this interview, it's going to feel very different than listening.
Right.
It's just going to. And the reason being is because we're talking. We're having a conversation. Now, don't get me wrong. Someone reading will imagine a back and forth. But maybe I'll have a Brooklyn accent.
Right.
Maybe you'll sound like Mike Tyson. Maybe hey, listen, people have imagination.
I have a really thick Canadian accent, eh?
Well, or maybe they do that. I don't know. Right? Why? The reason I'm saying it like this, exactly like this, is reading like prose. The really cool thing about prose is you're basically creating a hallucination.
Mm-hmm.
right? But sometimes that hallucination, right? Sometimes that hallucination is very much a matter of, okay, but this would be cool if I could actually see it, because this would help crystallize and focus a very specific story. If you drew out your story, if you actually used images and pictures,
if I could draw,
there's people to hire. Yeah. I mean, there are people to hire for that too. I bring all this up like this for this reason, not to denigrate, not to like, but mostly it's like every story has a bunch of different ways to tell the story.
Mm-hmm.
And what she's basically saying to you, her criticism is, this would have been better. The criticism is actually, as cool as this hallucination is, I wish there was a little bit more concrete to it, so I could actually, I wanted to, this would be better. Think of it like this. Instead of creating a hallucination from scratch, which is what prose is, comics is about the hallucination in comics is about moments of time.
Right.
Every gutter is basically cutting between moments, right?
Yeah, you can't show every stepping into a new room, or
you can if you want, or you can skip that, right? You can skip all that too. Like there's different comics are a different form of storytelling, obviously.
Yeah.
But the point's the same. What happens is, what happens to all of us is, in this, when we play with these mediums like this, we are how do I put this? We have to choose like what matters to us. What your reviewer is saying is your story would be better if the hallucination or what I was imagining was the moments between.
Mm-hmm.
You have these really cool bombastic images that would have been amazing told. That's not a terrible review. Actually.
No. You know what? I've appreciated it the more I read it and reread it, because I've had other people tell me that, you know what, for a 2-star review, that's actually a pretty awesome 2-star review. Because she never said that she didn't like anything. She just basically said this would be better. I mean, I do have the pictures in the book, like every time they find a new dinosaur.
Yeah, but okay, so let me throw it like this. Okay. Dinosaurs should be big, man. Wow. I mean, they should be big.
Like movie screen. Yeah.
It should be. You want that feeling, right? If you had so actually now she's actually a little bit more justified than I thought she was, right? Because you're cheating. Just a little bit, you're cheating. You're like these cool, it's cool to have little images here and there. They can add something to them if you do it right. But those shouldn't be dinos. They should be like little lizards, like throughout, because it's a Dino Rift. There'd be smaller things there too, right? So you have you could create like a hint of something bigger. But now you got this little tiny dinosaur. When you're talking about probably this ginormous thing, and it's basically like you're telling my mind that this is tiny, and yet your hallucination tells me this is big, right? So if you had actually just used bigger pictures, if you had used bigger pictures, if you made the dinos bigger, you just took a picture and said, you know what, put some black and white dino photos that are giant and cool and fun. She might still say it should still be a graphic novel, but you wouldn't. But okay, on that one, I gotta give it to her. Yeah. She's right.
I tried to make the book a little bit like a journal, because there is a character within the book that's stuck in the dinosaur time and has his own little scientific journal. So that's why I did the pictures, because I thought, you know what, I want it to be like a journal experience as well.
Which is cool, but then you should have made it. I'm gonna still say the same thing. Make the dinos big. Make the dinos bigger. Yeah. I'm going to tell you something. If I had a big ass dinosaur to look at all the time, I'd be drawing it as big. I wouldn't be drawing this tiny little dinosaur. I'd be drawing it as big as I could.
Would you have thought that with reading Jurassic Park though before the movies came out?
Yes, because I'm a comic guy. I'm a comic guy. I would have said it's the same thing. That's just and since we're gonna go Jurassic Park, let's talk Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park is about knowing what the audience wants, and that's this. Honestly, it's a dinosaur movie, so they're going to be dinosaurs. They're going to be the most impressive dinosaurs I can make and find, because because I want you to, when you see them, be wowed. I want to see okay, so the guy, I think it's the guy that plays Newman, that opportunistic, that opportunistic guy is really really early. So the first time I think it's the first time a dinosaur kills somebody, and the first time, oh, it's so cute, and it puts his thing out, blinds, it's like, oh, I'm blind, but he's still kind of alive in a comedic moment. Then you see like the really scary thing. Finally, notices that he exists. Yeah, exactly.
That just would have made it more horrific. Yeah,
but that's the idea, right? But that's the whole point, right? That's the whole point. When you got to the movie, right? If it's a movie, you're going to make everything bigger,
of course,
fatter, bigger. If you're going to play with pictures, you're going to be big. Listen, I wrote a post-apocalyptic end of the world story called The Watcher. There are pictures in there. There's dinos. There's all these weird creatures and stuff going on and fighting. None of that shit's small. It's big shit.
Right.
It's big shit. It's not designed to be like this. Ooh, this little no, because I'm cheating you. Now you're like, what the hell is this? It's so tiny. This is what happens to the brain subconsciously, Derek. Right?
Yeah.
Now, as a journal, again, same thing. He could draw it badly. That'd be fine too, right? He doesn't have to draw good.
Yeah.
You could actually draw, like, seriously, it could be terrible. You can even put a little thing, if it's really terrible, goes, I suck at this. Right? Right?
A little note at the beginning of the book. By the way, the pictures in here, I did myself, and I know I suck.
Yeah. Well, no, actually, you should just have like your own commentary as it would add some character to the guy. It'd be like, wall. Yeah. Well, not even fourth wall. Like, the character's in journal anyway. He's like, God, I suck at this, and he just knows it. Like, he just absolutely. Why am I even trying? But he can't help himself, right?
It'd be like Deadpool writing a book.
Kind of. But that's the thing. Like, again, you're talking journal experiences, right? So when I play cards with my sister, she'll put like these little, if I'm kicking her ass, especially if I'm kicking her ass, although the scores never actually make it to beyond like us because they mysteriously disappear, but there's some commentary sometimes, especially if I'm destroying her. If there's if we get to the point I'm destroying her, she'll put these little like doodles to the side, she'll have like these little comments. No, and this is like, this is so, but so much character, like, in one sense, I kind of wish she saved them not because I just wouldn't go out more, because I would, because I'm her brother and I kicked her ass, and I totally would. But it shows an awful lot of who my sister is, even in just playing a game of cards, because you can see these little intimate moments of her just being silly and obnoxious, and it's something you've built character without ever actually having to say a word of prose, and all you're doing it right. Simple little thing. It's all in how you tell the story, right? Like I said, right? So you do these like little things like that. Now, again, tone matters. You got to think about the tone you kind of want to convey in your story as well. But when you get right down to it, right? When you get right down to it, how to put this? You don't want what you want to present and what is presented to clash. This is something I've taken a long time. Right? That's something I've learned as a writer the hard way sometimes.
I agree.
Right? We had this really cool idea, and we just missed. Sometimes we miss the mark, or we cheat. Actually, more often than not, it's because we cheat ourselves. So this is what I'm going to say: you cheated, and here's why. And that's the bottom line: you cheated. Yeah, you cheated yourself a little bit. If you had taken that another couple pages and made it based on bigger dino pictures, one, it adds to the young adult field. Young adult books do that all the time, right? Number two, it would have given you it would have gave that Dino Rift feeling bigger.
Maybe I'll do a special edition then.
Maybe, but this is just like I said, this is me being like, if I was to be a consultant, that would be what I would tell you. It'd be like, that's to make your book feel more what you're going for. Like,
No, maybe. I'd have to see what my. I mean, I've already paid for all the artwork to make them bigger and to fit like a 5x8 would take a little more cost, but yeah.
no, it's not like I said. In the fact that they're black and white, they're not that. It's not going to add that much more to your printing cost at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So you gotta look at that. Like, those are decisions like what I'm talking about. Like when your reviewer is talking, what she's actually criticizing is not your story; it's the decisions you made in telling that story, and that's fair.
True. Yeah, and you know, I find that there's still always the few that don't quite jive with the third person omnipresent point of view that I use. And I actually had someone tell me that my writing style is very much like screenplay. Which to me, I thought screenplay was really hard to do.
Not really.
And well, I had never done it before, but when she said that my style was very much like screenplay, I just went, really? I mean, so many people have said that with the visuals of Dino Rift, it would be pretty epic as a movie. And I agree. Like, you know, I wish I could have done a graphic novel because that way it'd be easier to have a storyboard per se of what it could look like on screen.
You could always do storyboards. Dude, when I couldn't draw, I did storyboards.
Yeah.
In high school, I was going to make a comic book. It's like, well, and I think the most important lesson I learned about making a comic book was at the very beginning. Storyboard paper, basic little storyboard paper. I made a comic. Same, but the thing about storyboards, I didn't realize this until I was much older, and I happened to chat with a gentleman by the name of Terry Moore. And it's that when you do a storyboard, each scene is the same size. Comics, you have the ability to experiment how much bigger,
splash
smaller.
page.
Yeah, you have much more room. But if you look at Terry Moore's comics, specifically any of them actually, his panels are essentially the same size all the time. And what that does, though, is he'll do like these 18-page comics and sell them, but they're denser than the like 25, 30-page comics you'll read from DC or Marvel because he's got so much more story in there. What kills Terry Moore is his covers. His covers are okay. He could do but his interiors are amazing. Like, he's one of the best comic creators out there, but he does
stuff.
Yeah. Strangers in Paradise and Rachel Rising. Right now, his book he's out. It's called Serial. It's hilarious. The youngest / oldest serial killer in the world. It's actually read Rachel Rising. Read Rachel Rising first. Like that. If you're gonna go into that one, read Rachel Rising first.
Okay.
She'll be this. You'll see her first, and you'll be a little horrified because of watching her work is interesting. Right, but you'll find yourself when you get towards the end of the series, you'll actually like her, and you won't know why exactly, but you'll actually like her. It's true, right? So
interesting.
Yeah, but Terry Moore is great. Like, that's the thing about
I'll look up the stuff.
Yeah, like if you're going to you're at the point like where you're ready to experiment with different mediums, and I think the biggest lesson you're going to have to learn doing that is you're going to now have this little mind quagmire of, okay, if I were to film it, what would it look like? If I were to write a prose novel, what would that look like? If I write a comic, what would that look like? Right? And all of them would be different and yet interesting and fun, and have a good time.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I write already, though, is like, okay, how do I set the scene? How do I make the viewer feel like they're looking in to what the person's saying, how they're saying it, body language.
Okay, so think of it like this. Okay, each medium has a rule of language, how to tell that story.
Okay.
So if you, for example, comics is all about time, motion. The absence of motion is how you tell your stories in comics. Screenplays are the opposite. They're all about motion. Right? There's
always something happening.
Well, you have to. Right? That's just the nature. That's the nature of a movie. Something has to happen, and your dialogue is primarily served to convey information, right? And you can do it that in some really creative ways. I think one of my favorite screenplays to analyze is The Dark Knight. You learn an awful
screenplay.
What?
I've never read the screenplay per se.
It's fascinating because you can look at the different, like, how it comes off on screen versus how it.
Right.
So there's some really interesting, like, scenes, like the first true introduction to the Joker, not the bank robbery, but his actual introduction on them in the movie is fascinating because, okay, comes in, hear that laugh, ha 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 ha, and I thought my jokes were bad. Guy asked him, give me one reason why my boy shouldn't rip your head off. Natural. Right. That's a typical reaction. So what was the Joker's answer? How about a magic trick? Think about what that just did. Okay, what he just did with that. Then he literally takes a pencil out. I'm going to make this pencil disappear. It's crazy. And he kills the guy with the pencil. It's magic gone. Right? Right? That's...
I remember the first time I saw that in theater, and that scene was just like, wow.
But you ever ask why it works so well? Why does that work? What information was conveyed in that scene?
Yeah, because you understand he's a psycho.
Well, that's part of it, but he's smart.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about so to give you the information about the banks, the monies, and the idea behind that was to show you how desperate the mob really was. How desperate the mob was. So the Joker, first question is, how long was he listening into that conversation? He heard a bit of it because he came in and then talked about the television's plan later. So he heard quite a bit of that. How much? Who knows? But he heard quite a bit of that, right? Then he comes in and then he goes, right, how about a magic trick? And I'm going to make this pencil and kills a guy with it, right? And then that suit, and that suit, it isn't cheap. You ought to know you bought it. Now, it's a very clever way of saying that I stole your money. That is you really sit there and break that all down?
Yeah,
that's what he said. I stole your money. He also told the audience, without actually saying it, I've been hearing this conversation. I heard this conversation that came before me too. I let them speak. Right? So, and you answer your own question. How long was he there? He was there for a long time. He heard that was near the very beginning of when the mob was starting their group therapy session. Right? Right? So, but see, like, that's the thing. Like, the dialogue, that's how dialogue carries in a movie. The dialogue has to convey information always.
Yep.
But how you do it can be done in a zillion different ways, right?
Yeah.
Right? And then the plot moves along. The guy to the right goes, I want to hear proposition. And then, again, it's a whole, like, this is like true interesting. It's a fascinating study of the character because it's like, he starts going to this rhythm of winding clocks back in the air. He's starting to go into his rhythm. And then the guy, he calls him a freak. And you can literally see it throws him off his rhythm just for a minute there. It just threw him off. Did not like that at all. Right? But he got his rhythm back. He started talking about what needed to be done. Right? Right? And it's like simple. We killed Batman. Okay. We killed Batman. So on that note, so again, talks about what he wants, what he seems to want at that moment anyway, right? You got all this information in 2 minutes of a conversation. Hindsight's easier to see it all as it goes. When it unfolds in front of you, it's not always easy to catch all that stuff.
Right.
But decisions were made all the way through in that. The dialogue, what the Joker's saying, what he doesn't say, and for how he says it. Says an awful lot about who he is as a character. And those in the movie, that's a very important part of the language of how a story is told in a movie. The dialogue has to convey information, but in so doing also reveal things about the character. Comics aren't much different. Comics are the same, But in a prose novel, dialogue doesn't carry the story at all. It's the opposite. It's the descriptions, right? That's right. So in that case, if you're telling a prose story, what are the descriptions you're going for? If you're telling a movie, how is the dialogue going to carry this? You see how I'm asking a different question?
Yeah.
Right? It's a different question because I'm still telling a story, but I understand that each language is different. And now I understand that those are the rules of the language. I can now play in that medium in a bunch of different ways. I never would, right, if I didn't know these things.
But is there times when those rules can maybe be bent a little?
Sure.
So, like in my books, I always write onomatopoeias. So if there's an explosion, I have a kaboom. Or if there's a creature that's roaring, I have a roar as a line within.
You know, again, you're making this argument for her. That 2-star review much stronger every time you mention this stuff.
I mean, that's the way I would see the scene unfolding, and I guess I'm just letting the reader know that this is how I want it to.
It's cool. I'm not criticizing it at all.
That's my style.
That's your style. All right, that is your style. So storytelling, when you break it all down, is about expectations.
That's true.
So if you want to bend expectations or break expectations, you have to understand what expectations the audience actually is expecting from you. If you have that understanding nailed down, then you can do some stuff.
Right. Now, the thing with that I find is that, a lot of people actually for Dino Rift, I will say, have never read my previous stuff. Like just before I published Dino Rift, I got on TikTok, and I found I don't know if they would still have expectations or no, because they've never read my stuff, or is it just because this is Dinosaurs? This is Dinosaurs. I expect.
Okay, so let me tell you what I mean by expectations. Okay, we all essentially storytelling, like the mechanics of storytelling, we're telling the same kind of story. Okay, I'm doing an Alice in Wonderland retelling. She fell down the rabbit hole. She opened Pandora's box. It's the same thing. She fell down the rabbit hole, and she's lost. She's in this weird place. She has to navigate her way through, find her way through. That's Alice in Wonderland.
Right.
So, what do you expect when you think of Alice in Wonderland? You think Queen of Hearts. You think, right? You think Mad Hatter. You think all these characters and you have certain expectations of what those characters are and will act like, even though no one's ever read you before, right? It's a dinosaur book. There's going to be some expectations for dinosaurs. They're going to be big. They're going to roar. They might poop. They possibly might poop, right? But the idea, again, what I'm saying to you here is the idea being presented here is every story comes with a certain set of expectations.
True. Yeah, I see where you're coming with that now.
Yeah, it's not Derek Bourne's expectations. It's storytelling basics. 101. Are your stories, and everybody's, and the challenge is, okay, let's go with Chuck. The expectation was the guy was going to get the girl. Okay. So the question there is, do you go into that expectation, or do you go away from that expectation? Right? Now, there's a couple ways. Now we're just going to throw some randomly fun stuff out there. Okay? Just for shits. Right? What if, Chuck meets somebody else and becomes a love triangle?
Right. Which they did a couple times.
Right? Or what if she meets somebody and she decides to marry him? And that's the end of the story. It's not the story people necessarily want to see. People maybe want to see the guy and the girl get together after overcoming all the odds. But that's the idea, right?
Yeah.
So you have this basic formula. So how do I get the guy to end up to get the girl? Or how do I have him fail miserably? Right? Or how do I have her chase him? Or how do I have someone try to chase them both?
Right.
I mean, whatever, right? So you can take a story type and you can expound on it a zillion different ways.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to understand what the actual expectation you're playing with is.
Right.
Before you can make that decision one way or the other. Television has different expectations than comics. Comics have different expectations than prose. Prose has different expectations than manga. Manga has different expectations than,
right.
A podcast.
So the expectations are essentially also tropes.
It can be. They can be tropes. They can be tropes. They also are how you tell the story, too. It can also work that way. Storytelling is ultimately about how we deal with expectations. That's really what if you want to really break storytelling down to its core. Yeah, Derek had a frozen foot. He froze for a second, but that's okay. But that's
I think you froze a little bit actually on my end.
Okay, well, I saw you freeze.
Either way.
So whatever. There was a freeze. There was a freeze, ladies and gentlemen. But
that's okay.
I say this lightly. I say it this way because I don't want. How do I put this? So it's not just tropes. It's not just mediums. But if every story you tell, there will always be an expectation.
Right.
The question is, what expectation? But it is within those expectations that you tell your story. If I'm telling an epic fantasy story, I'm doing like a quest to get the item of awesome to beat the great evil.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the best ways to subvert that expectation is what the bad guy gets at first.
Right. Yeah. Right. Take it and then do the total opposite.
That's one way to do it. Or you can follow it. You can follow it right in as well.
Yeah.
Or you can take it away and give it back to people. Or you can give it to people and you take it away. Right? There's all kinds of little tricks. So.
Like it reminds me of the one review I was given that said, Dino Rift is basically Jurassic Park if the park was a rift in time.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's kind of an expectation, but going kind of from a different angle.
Again, you're subverting an expectation, right? So Jurassic Park is the modern expectation for a dinosaur story. So that's what you're going against. Now you can use that. You could also use what Jurassic Park's based off of, right? Right, because he didn't come up with that all firsthand. Like we steal. I'm a thief. I'm doing
every story's been told.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right? It's how we tell it that makes it truly ours. So if that's the case, right? I mean, drawing has taught me a lot more about the language of visual art. Just doing it.
Yeah. I wish I could be better at that. I really do.
It can be done.
Yeah, that's just with time.
But here, I'll show you something.
Ooh. Here we go. Here we go. It's exciting.
So, prepare for trouble and make it double.
There you go.
Getting there. One sec here.
See, now that's recognizable.
Yeah.
It's good.
Jiggly without the puffs. Jiggly puff kicks
without the puffs. Nice.
Or it's the puffs with no jiggly. We'll let you decide.
Right. Yeah.
I wanna be.
Oh, that's Mew.
That is correct.
That is Mew. I like it.
Wait, I got a couple more.
And don't get me singing. I'll sing the whole theme song. Is that Raichu?
Yes.
Nice.
Now.
It's the little curl under the ear that was the tell.
Yeah. That's what I just tried to do here.
my good old Charizard.
Yeah. I'll show you one more.
I like it. Oh, Alakazam.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, you're good.
Getting there.
Better than me.
Dude, I've been drawing for less than a year.
Yeah, better than me. By far.
Dude, it's not like it just takes a little time.
I still do like, you know, when you draw the sun in the corner of the page, little rays coming down from that's my level.
I draw birds. I still draw birds with a B from the one.
Yeah.
There's lots of little tricks.
Yeah.
But here's what I'm saying. This is where I'm coming from with you, right? As far as drawing goes, push yourself. The biggest thing I had to learn about doing all this stuff is you can't be afraid to suck.
That's true. That's really true. You know, even when I first started writing at like a very young age, I just did it because I loved it. You really have to have no fear.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I'm at the point, though, that now that Dino Rift's out, I have that pressure of, because it's doing so well,
Anita, if you are there, it's him this time.
Now I'm starting to feel, how do I top that? I just feel like, could I do something that actually tops that?
So you are suffering from imposter syndrome.
Exactly.
That happened to me with the Auroras. Right. So what I did was I asked myself 3 questions. How did I get here? What did I do so well that people could not help but notice?
Right.
What do I suck at? Because this is an honest assessment. What do I suck at? How do I avoid it? And success, any success you get in this life comes from the fact that you're putting yourself out there and you're doing things.
Yeah.
So the trick then is recognizing that when you do succeed, anyone can succeed by accident. The truth of the matter is anyone can.
Yeah.
Right? To stay successful, you got to be very honest about looking at what you did and being very honest about what you brought to the table to make that possible. If you can do that, rule 5, get out of your way.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm just at the point where I need to go.
You faded, bud. You there?
Wait.
Yep, you froze twice.
No.
I don't know who froze up that time, because the last time you froze up when your last answer a little bit. I was able to put together the pieces on Impostor Syndrome.
Yeah.
Because there was enough there. But this one, I don't know who froze. So.
Yeah. I think we're freezing on each other. I think it's a mutual freezing.
Well, I might have froze the first one. I don't know. But you definitely froze the second time. And third time, Derek froze. There you go.
From my end, you're freezing, though. So either way. Anyway.
Oh, hey, listen. I'm going by the comments. That's 2-1. That's 2-1.
Oh, darn.
Yeah.
I don't mean to freeze. No.
It's your fault, Derek. It's your fault.
But honestly, I need a vacation.
Then go take a vacation.
Yeah, I need to do like a day trip or something like that somewhere else.
Then go do it.
Yeah, I have to. It's working out the time because we don't really have any part-timers at the store right now. It's just my parents and I and my wife. So getting that time is,
I'm sure there are days you're not busy. I'm sure there's a couple days in the week you're not that busy.
Yeah, Mondays and Tuesdays usually.
Take a Monday off.
Right. Today was my day off.
I mean, like.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah, I need to.
Yeah.
Probably head down to Stratford or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a fun. I don't know what they're like out there, but
Stratford has back when things were normal, Stratford Festival. where you could go and they put on plays and stuff. You could do shopping while you're there.
Yep.
So yeah.
Well, I'm hoping for
Something
normal.
like that.
I'm hoping for quote unquote normal.
No.
Sometime
One day
soon.
closer to the end of it all.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Now we are.
Yeah. But that all said, like I said, I'm gonna be like I said, I'm thinking like for me it's like I might want to disappear. I don't know. So maybe I'll end up back in Alberta. Maybe I'll end up back in BC. I think it'll be Alberta though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go see Lake Moraine, do some hiking.
Yeah, maybe. Or go to the mountains.
Yeah. Can't beat those mountains.
No, you can't. The cool thing about Ontario coming back is when the leaves change. There's nothing quite like that anywhere else.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, you can't beat a mountain.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's like, I don't know if you ever listened to Cody Fry. He's a musician, and he has a song called "Pictures of Mountains."
Ah, nice.
So Cody Fry, like French fry, but that song is very poignant because it's all about what in life we're missing out on. Like, he has a line in his song that says, "I should call my friends, but I'll read their posts instead."
Yep.
Or it's like, I'll read the newspaper to get my opinions on news and religion, so I don't have to make my own mind.
Well, I don't have to worry about that. I'm an opinionated guy. Ocean's great, actually. Anita, honestly, Ocean's awesome too.
Yeah.
San Diego has both. That's right. And right. So I it's like beach and mountain.
Yeah, and British Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have friends that still live on the Sunshine Coast.
Yeah.
I visited them 2 years ago. I would love to go back.
And I'm back.
Yeah.
Find a way, make it happen. So.
Yeah. But I love about that song, though, he says, basically a picture of a mountain does not do the mountain justice.
No. Life's short, man.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot, done a lot, and I'm going to see and do a lot more. The only question at this point is how. Right? Because that's right.
It's nice you can still travel across Canada right now, though.
For the moment,
yeah.
Yes. For the moment.
Yeah.
Well, actually, you'll still always be able to do so. This country's too big, but no planes or trains I know. It's an amazing country. It's a beautiful place. Yeah. There's a lot of good people here, and
Are you still in Windsor?
For the moment.
Oh, you are. Yeah.
For the moment, I kind of made a decision about Windsor. How do I put this? I'll say 3 weeks ago. So I was doing a temp job. Now I knew a temp job wasn't going to last long because it was an automobile factory, and the automobile factories are on, like, they're still off. They're laid off for another week. Next week they go back to work, maybe. So this is the only, like, this is the first non-layoff in a long time. Like, they're like chip shortage layoff. This is a regular one, but they're still chip short. They're still super chip short, and it was supposed to be a 2-week job, and on the third day I was like, oh. And I honestly couldn't tell you why. Like, I legitimately couldn't, because I did everything I was asked to do. It wasn't like I was late or anything like that. So I don't know. Like, they just said, we're not going to have you. So, which was weird, but it was what it was. And I was like, I had to have it, and I was like, okay, not going to do.
Yeah. Might have been one of those last ones in situation, maybe.
Oh, it's possible. I was a temp worker too. Like, it wasn't like they had they could have gotten rid of me for any reason they wanted to, and so whatever the reason was, it just kind of was an epiphany that I'm not gonna do here. I'm not supposed to do what I've done in the past. Now I do need something part time, but if I get something nice and remote, I'll do that. doesn't really matter what I do at this point as long
Want
as
to come sell some olive oil?
maybe.
Olive oil, balsamic, bring out the foodie in you.
Yeah. All balsamic on the foodie. Dude, I could do some things with that vinegar and you wouldn't believe. So
Yeah, I believe it.
yeah, you wouldn't believe. But show you how to ferment your foods with vinegar and make you eat half the food and be twice as full.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You can with vinegar. You have the ability if you want to, if you know someone has digestion issues with certain things,
right?
What you do is you put vinegar, and they have to eat it. Can't avoid not eating it. Put vinegar on it and wait. Yeah. Let it sit for like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
They'll start to break down, so it's easier to digest, and it will fill you up.
Probiotic.
Yeah. Fermentation, man, powerful shit.
Yeah. Now I wouldn't use too much balsamic vinegar because that stuff's expensive.
Yeah, it's true. But I mean, you could do it, right? And it's an easy way of doing it.
There, we do it all the time. If you get like some red onion or something, just let it sit in a nice white balsamic that still has that little bit of sweetness to it. So the pop of the red onion is down just a little bit, but still there, and it gives that nice little zing.
It's good stuff, right? And it's also super healthy shit. It's also super healthy to do it that way, which is really So.
Now, have you ever tried putting a fruit flavored white balsamic in sparkling water?
I have not.
Now that is like making a healthier version of pop.
Yes. Oh, you want to hear my healthy version of pop?
Sure.
My actual healthy version: citric acid, baking soda, and water.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense.
What you do is when the baking soda makes contact with the citric acid, the whole thing fizzes. Like it just goes.
Right.
So you drink it right there. You have a powerful anti-digestive. You'll actually clean out your gut.
So you don't even need like a soda stream. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So that's my healthy pop.
Yeah. For this stuff, it's like my favorite I use is the peach white balsamic. So white balsamic infused with natural peach juice. And I put that in my sparkling water. It's like peach pop.
Yeah.
Or add it to sparkling white wine as like a Bellini.
It's really cool. It's really cool.
It's so easy.
Yeah, and stomach cleansers, ladies and gentlemen. That's what this is. This is legitimate stomach cleansers.
Yeah.
True secret to health: clean out your gut.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Eat some sauerkraut or kimchi.
Or kefir.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
It's been months too. I've been since I moved into here. I've kind of been like, I have eaten somewhat well, but it's like I've let myself cheat a little bit. Ice cream.
I think we all have.
Yeah.
I think we all.
I've let myself cheat a little bit, so I want to get my ass into some kind of shape though, because one, I'm turning 40. I still got all my hair.
Are you really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that.
How old do you think I was?
I would have thought you're at least your like early 30s.
Sweet, I'll take it.
Like me, I'm 32, so.
Oh, so yeah, so did you feel like I was younger than you?
I thought you were around the same age.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take it though. I will take it now. Totally take it.
Your hair looks great.
Yeah, that's it. Like I'm 40 years old. Everything works, and it's like, no drugs, no pills. A lot of that really is just cleaning out your gut. That's all you really got to do it. Like it's a really simple thing, but it's a very Maltese Italian thing to do. So
yeah. Well, I mean, your stomach is your second brain, right?
Yeah. Well, it's number 3 on the list. Your brain, your heart are 1 and 2, and I would say your heart is actually the most important thing. If the heart's not pumping the way it should, everything else just goes.
Yeah.
Right.
But whatever you feed your stomach is what's going to make you actually feel good or feel bad.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's the fuel that keeps that heart going.
Yeah. Absolutely. So but like I said, the stomach is 3. Like it's easily 3 for me. But it's like brain, I like thinking. Heart, I like my heart beating. And number 3. It's how you build your body up, man. It's how it works. So.
And it's funny. We had a part-timer that started working for us when we shortly opened, and she started using our olive oil. and I went to go see your doctor, and he said, "Your cholesterol's amazing." He said, "What are you taking? Have you changed anything medicine wise?" She goes, "Oh no, I just changed what I'll keep doing it because your cholesterol is fantastic." So even just a simple change of what we're using in the grocery store compared to an ultra premium quality,
Oh, yeah.
night and day.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's just like these are just simple things.
Yeah.
Like health is cheap. Like really
When you
cheap.
think about it. Yeah.
It's really cheap. It's
agree.
just a matter of looking at how things work. A lot of the answers are literally right in front of us. They always are. So
Yeah. And I've had people say to me, "Well, I can get olive oil cheaper at the grocery store." And I always come back and say, "Well, if we didn't have the crap options in the grocery store, this stuff wouldn't be as expensive as it is."
I think I'd be a little, again, from a sales perspective, just a sales perspective, I'd be maybe a touch politer, but I get where you're coming from, right?
Well, I mean, like you've got companies that are touting themselves as Italian, and yet they're actually using a Spanish olive oil.
Oh, I know.
Same thing with wine.
Oh no, it's everything. Like if you're gonna get down into it, like there's almost no food is, when you get right down to it, every food's not, like most of the foods out there that come from a grocery store these days, they aren't what they're supposed to be.
No.
They just aren't.
They're full of fillers and preservatives.
Yep, and among other things. So you just have to recognize that. But most, again, it's one of those situations where you gotta realize that stuff. I read labels. I'm one of those guys that will read a label. But if I don't know what's in it, I've been cheating lately. Not gonna lie, I'm cheating lately. That's what ice cream. If I'm buying ice cream from a grocery store, I'm cheating. I know it's not what it's cracked up to be.
That's all right. It's fine.
Yeah. But the thing about it is, right, you just gotta, once you're aware, like, once you see how things work, like once you really see how things work, you kind of just realize that for the most part, this is the part maybe never leaving the matrix, going way back to something we said at the very beginning. For the most part, we tend to believe the stories that are told to us,
right?
Not necessarily what is true,
right?
And it's a very and it's hard to find. It's hard to find truth in the sense that there are lots of things that are true, and figuring out where they fit into your life can be a really, really hard thing. But at the end of the day, some things work, some things don't. Mm-hmm. Life is pretty cut and dry. It's just not. You can't bullshit life. But companies, politicians, everybody is trying to sell you something for the most part these days. Mm-hmm. Is telling you a story.
Yeah.
So the question is whether you believe it. The question is whether you believe it or not.
Well, look at our grandparents. Their age bracket. They believe everything on the grocery store shelf was good for you. They didn't ask questions.
Once upon a time, food was. Foods change, right? As with everything else. When we were born, and I was born, it wasn't that there weren't kids born with asthma or ADD, but they were a lot less common.
Right.
Right. As we've gotten more and more into the system, right, it has become a more common thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not just because of misdiagnosis, but it's also because our food has changed.
Yep.
If you look at what a loaf of bread looks like 100 years ago versus what it looks like today, it is not the same thing at all. The milk we bought 100 years ago is not the same milk we're buying today. So everything we have, everything we're doing, everything we're seeing, everything we're going with, right, is become more of a construct the longer we go. So the more of a construct it has become, the less like that food has looked like what our grandparents ate, what our parents ate, and even now what I ate compared to what's coming down the pipe for what's following me. It's a different world, and it's evolving very quickly.
Well, 100 years ago, how often did you hear of someone who had a gluten intolerance?
Didn't exist.
No. But because companies are putting so much of the gluten protein in their bread, basically packing it with more gluten than it actually needs, too much of a good thing is a bad thing, and that's what's causing the problem. Plus the pesticides.
Plus
and the glyphosate.
And also it's just not the same bread. It's not. No, it's just
not ancient grain. More farmers in the States are starting to use ancient grains, which is great. It's not as profitable, but the more they do it, the more they're actually finding people are feeling better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the food industry is pretty interesting. You ever watch that show Rotten on Netflix?
I have not. Again, I'm not cool, Derek.
Cool. But hey, when you get a chance, Rotten goes into so many different avenues of the food industry and what's wrong with it.
Oh geez, I've known. Okay, so, oh my God, we could spend hours talking about this.
Yeah, I know. But like wine, honey, the fish industry, olive oil,
water,
some of the other stuff they do. Yeah, water.
Water, milk. It boils down, ironically, to today. The same companies that make our food are the same companies that make our medicine. So,
yep.
So they are creating problems and offering solutions.
Right, because Bayer owns Monsanto, which creates Roundup, and then the people who get sick with the cancer go for their medicine, which comes from Bayer. It's a vicious cycle.
It's also true with Pfizer. It's also true with any of these other companies that exist.
Yeah.
And once you understand that, once you understand that, then you see that then you see the, how do I put this?
Hypocrisy.
That's part of it. The unethicalness, the lack of common sense.
But that also kind of says to, the whole reason why Michael Crichton wrote Jurassic Park. They made dinosaurs because they could.
Hi, Doris.
Hey, Doris. But man will do what man will want, what they want to do because they can.
Okay.
As long as you have the funds and build yourself up to be so powerful that no one can touch you, because who's going to go against Bayer? Who's going to go against Monsanto? People try, and they do pay out, but they're still rolling in money. How do you take down something like that that's also helped by the FDA?
That's easy enough.
That's also helped by the government.
That's also easy enough. You don't have to cooperate.
Yeah. How long can you go with doing that, though?
Well, you don't have to go that long. The system's fragile.
Oh, it totally is. Totally is.
So,
it's just why is not everyone waking up?
Oh, that's a oh, wow. Okay.
A lot of deep questions, eh?
Okay.
I can't stay on for much longer, though. I do have to.
No. We'll try to.
In a nutshell, Josh.
Not in a nutshell.
In a really big nutshell.
We'll just for now tackle the Jurassic Park thing. I'm going to throw this at you another way.
Sure.
Isn't what we're, in one sense, what are we doing right now any different than what the part you said about us creating something, right? Just for the sake of creating. Isn't that what we all do? I don't think that part of human nature is necessarily a bad thing.
True.
I think if this time has taught me anything, it's two things. One, this time is is about kind of having a recalibration to what's real in this world right now. That's what's really going on for most of us. What is real in a time like this? And with everything coming down the pike that's coming down the pike, right? That's important. People need to figure out who they are and where they stand, wherever that is. That's important. So that's very important right now.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. No matter how powerful anything seems,
it's fragile.
It's fragile. And the most fragile thing is ultimately it comes down to our willingness to cooperate with whatever's out there. Because these systems, no matter how insidious they are, only work when we cooperate with them.
That's true.
Right? We don't have to. As I've gotten older, I have given far less about it as shit. I don't care. One advantage I do have is I am a man with absolutely very little right now. Well, a guy like me, what do you threaten me with? You can't have this. I don't have it now.
Yeah.
What do I care?
That's the advantage of living a simple life.
Yeah, like there's nothing you can really do to me that way.
Yep.
So if I say no, well, you're out of the club. Okay. Right? That's that, right?
Yeah.
Now, for everybody else, right? For everybody else, what kind of club do you want? Like, we don't ask this question enough. Do you know the world I want is a world where people can get together, we can disagree, we can have a drink, we can tell dirty jokes, I can hit on pretty women and sometimes they say yes, and like simple things that make life the best things in life aren't the things you buy. The best things in life are the little things. Like joy and love.
Yeah.
And if this world is about it becomes something joyless and only about existence, it's not worth being part of that club. No. I would rather be by myself in a cave doing cave drawings, and me and Gaga can have a conversation about why did you put me here in this time. I'll have that conversation with him. So what did you want me to do?
Yeah.
Right. But I'd rather that than be part of a place or a time or a situation where all joy is gone. And for what? Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, too many people are losing their joy right now, which is making them want to, I don't know, do very strange things.
Joy versus fear.
Well, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, right. It's joy versus fear. And we gotta make our choice, and we gotta choose it. And like I said, we can go a lot longer, but you do have to go. So I'm not gonna.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So what would you like to promote? It's promotion time, ladies and gentlemen.
Promotion time. Well, the only thing I got going on right now is Dino Rift. It is a young adult sweet teen romance that takes in dinosaurs and time travel. It's also within the same universe as my superhero spy series, The Ultimate Agent. So because of certain things that happened in that series, this book was able to happen. Unfortunately, 2 weeks before release, the characters started yelling at me again, so I have to write something else to go with this now. As fast as
bigger possible. Pictures.
Yeah, I know. I'll take that now.
Yeah. That's it.
But you can find that on Amazon. You can find it almost anywhere.
Do you have a website that people can actually find out about this and you?
You can go to www.derekborne.weebly.ca. Weebly. And you can find out more about the books. You can find about.
Is that right? Did I get it?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Woohoo!
.com.
Oh, not .ca?
No, sorry. But you can find out more about the books. One of my favorite parts of my website actually is called the Fan Gallery, and it's of everyone that's bought books of mine and have pictures of themselves with the book. With the friends that I've made along the way. So
I'm going to ask you to repeat that just because you froze right
Did
there.
I?
Yeah, you did. You froze. Just repeat it. Just repeat it.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah.
The fan gallery is one of my favorite parts of the website because it's people who have pictures of themselves with my book. As like I say, I couldn't do this without them, without the friends like Josh that I've made along the way.
Yep. And with that note, ladies and gentlemen, so my next podcast is Wednesday. I have a very special guest. She's 10 years old. She has 2 illustrated books out. I feel so inadequate. It's going to be a fun interview. It's going to be a special one at 12 noon on Wednesday. And on Thursday, I have another guest. I'm finalizing the times for that right now. And then we'll see about if I do a drink and draw this week. I might actually do it. I might call for just a random people to come on out. I'm not going to do Pokemon. I'm going to probably do something a little bit more epic. I'm going to probably do some Grand Blue Fantasy just because I don't know if I can do it. So I'm going to try it. So if anyone's got a mecha hand, definitely check that out. Okay, so a bunch of stuff here. So if you want to be sponsored for the show, if you want to sponsor the show, contact me, Michael Through Time at live.com. I will be offering giveaways for books, Kickstarters, video games, you name it. Number 1, follow my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/justjoshingpodcast. Also, follow me on my YouTube channel, Joshua Penteleresco. Hit the like, subscribe there. Alice Zero is nominated for the Elgin Award, right? And Alice 1 comes out in November. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah. Make beautiful things. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.